Hey, what's going on? This is Peter here with the McKernan Group. I want to talk to you a little bit about what the feds have been doing. And I know I made a video on this before, but what they're doing, what they're going to do, and what they're consistently going to do for the remainder of the year at least what they talked about. Because sometimes they'll talk about something, so the Federal Reserve, they've been increasing interest rates. And what they've talked about over the past 6 months is we're going to increase interest rates. For the last couple of years, they've talked about it, but they knew they couldn't do it with the market that we had because everybody was coming out of the throes of COVID. They were coming out of, the pandemic and everything else. So they couldn't, all of a sudden pile on with all the other stuff that was going on, pile on interest rate hikes. Now they can because they've seen what the economy's done, and they also have to tamper inflation. And inflation's a big challenge for us, especially these days with supply chain issues and everything else. So that's one thing you got to keep in mind is that the feds, if they don't see a change in employment rates being so good, so if they have employment rates that ultimately unemployment goes up, then they'll be able to back off a little bit. If they see supply chain issues drop, so there's not as much supply chain issues, and then also if they see the housing market drop a little bit, they'll tamper off those rate hikes. But right now, they're still full force doing it, and we have another meeting I think for the feds in June, I believe, or early July, and they'll most likely increase the interest rates again. So you want to be a lookout for that, because ultimately what does that do? That creates a down push, so pressure down on those buyers that are looking for houses. Maybe they're approved for 500, now all of a sudden they're approved for 400 because of the interest rates have gone up from 2.75%, now they're at 5.75%. 3% adjustment in the last 4 months is crazy. It is unreal that we've had this big of a jump. I mean, granted, if you look over the last 30 to 35 years, the interest rates, we've had interest rates, of the high teens all the way down to low teens, and right now we're at 5.75% or 5.5% on primary, and it's kind of tapered off a little bit the past 3 weeks. So those are things, you need to look out for as, for one, an agent, and two, as a buyer and a seller. Like, okay, well, are we going to go up to 7.5%, and what's that going to do to the market? Is that going to create an issue where ultimately there are more houses that sit on the market for 70, 80, 90 days on the market? Those are challenges that you want to look out for. Those are things to be aware of. And as you work as an agent and also a buyer and a seller, those are things you want to be aware of, because it's going to make you that much better when your house goes to market, or when you're listing a home, or when you're working with a buyer. So thanks for watching. If you guys have any comments or questions, leave them below.